Hey guys, Ryan here. This is going to be my video on the Modern Warfare MP5 and if it's still viable in the meta right now with the FFAR and MAC-10 running around, running rampant. This first intro clip is going to be me with the sniper. I'm really enjoying the Kar 98 right now, but I'm going to have a video on this in the Tundra and the Farah, the new assault rifle, later this week. But let's get right into this. So I have a time to kill chart here that I really want to go over. The blue is the MAC-10, orange is the MP5, and the pink purple is going to be the FFAR. So as you can see, the FFAR is clearly better than the MP5 and the MAC-10. But I want to also bring up other stats here like sprint to fire time, ADS time, and those. I'm going to bring those up right now so we can see. So let's go over this. The Modern Warfare MP5, fully kitted with the meta attachments on all three, has better ADS, sprint to fire time, and tactical sprint to fire time. So if you were to compare the normal time to kill chart that I just had and factor in the sprint to fire time and tactical sprint to fire time, I think you would find that in some situations, oftentimes a lot of situations depending on your playstyle, the Modern Warfare MP5 is more than viable right now. I know that it doesn't seem as if it's as good as the FFAR and all of that, but the truth is it's viable. It's a great gun, and I think it clearly has a place in the meta still. I'm going to bring up my class setup and the loadout I use with the attachments in about a minute or so. But right now, I think the main thing I want to talk about is the real reason I think it has a really good place is the movement that comes with it. But the familiarity and the ease of the recoil. I feel that a lot of people use this gun when it was super meta, so I feel like people are used to the kick innately. They have a good feel for it, they understand the way that it feels, the way that it works in the mid-range and the close range, and they know that it has good movement and good hip fire. I'm not going to say that this gun is perfect and that you should always use it over the FFAR, but if you want to spice things up, you want to switch it up, you want to use something new, then I would recommend using it. Now, the other thing is I love pairing it with either a long-range assault rifle or a sniper. I believe that is a great pairing with the Kar 98, the AMAX, or the M4A1, or any long-range AR like that. I'm going to pull up my attachments right now. And I think these are generally the best attachments, although the monolithic integral suppressor I sometimes change out for just the normal monolithic suppressor if I want a more mid-range build. But I have it built like this for me because I feel like the tac laser can sometimes give away my place in close range situations, and I don't rely on hip fire a lot. I'm someone who prefers to aim down sight and use my movement and good aim in close range situations, and that's the way I have it built. There's a lot of variations you can run with it, but that's my general attachments with it. And I want to stress that you should have a attachment and setup that you feel better with. For me, I prefer to not have a hip fire setup because I don't do too well with hip fire. I do well, but it's just not something I do very often. If you watch my gameplay, I just don't really hip fire. And that's something I really want to stress is my build is built for that. And you have to factor in your own playstyle when you build your gun. And I think that's something I may cover in another video on why I use the attachments I do. But it's something that I think people should always be aware of. And if you're wondering why in this game it's going to primarily only take place in port, we did not start in port, we landed downtown. But looking at the circle, I kind of figured the game was going to end in this general area. And I really wanted to get a win. So we ended up spending a lot of time down here. And that's just how it ended up being. And we caught the dub because the Modern Warfare circles are unfortunately a little too predictable sometimes. And it allows people to get good positioning, which can just single-handedly win you the games. But knowing that, you can also use it to your advantage to get a lot of kills, to understand rotations, and understand the power positions where you want to be in. Now, I believe that the Modern Warfare MP5 is honestly also a little bit not worse than the Cold War MP5, but different, I want to say. I find that up close, I much rather prefer the MW MP5. But I think the Cold War MP5 is really good in the mid-range and at a little bit of distance. I think that it's kind of underrated in that aspect. But I believe they're both overshadowed by the Sleeper Bullfrog, which is I think the new mid-range SMG, which is kind of not too relevant right now with the FFAR because the FFAR is good in that type of SMG mid-range I'm referring to. Because an SMG mid-range is a little different than something like the AMAX or M4 mid-range, you know. I think you guys can understand what I'm saying there, because innately, an SMG can reach to those distances, but an AR is going to have a longer mid-range, quote-unquote. And that's just going to bring me back to the Modern Warfare MP5. And I think that in close range gunfights, this is the SMG and gun that I've really been enjoying rocking with, just because of the feel. The kick is easy to control, the movement is great, and I showed you guys the stats. If you factor in the ADS time, the sprint to fire time, and the tactical sprint to fire time, and all the situations in which those are relevant, which is a good bit of your Warzone games, then I think you're going to understand what I mean when I say it still has a place. I'm not saying you should just use it over the FFAR though. I'm not saying it's better than the MAC-10 or the Cold War MP5 or whatever. I think there's so many different guns, and that if you wanted to try this gun out, it is good. It still has a place. You don't need to worry about, is it good enough to use or whatnot? It is. I promise you that. You build it with the right class, you set it up with another good gun to rock it with that can cover the weakness in the long to mid-range, and I guarantee you're going to be set. It's still worth the use. You can still use it and feel confident about your choice. Now, I'm going to go over the Cold War MP5 setup I use. I'm going to go over the FARA, the new assault rifle, which I think is a little bit better than people think. And I'm going to go over the Tundra, the Cold War AK-47. There's tons of guns right now, and I'm going to make videos on almost all of them. And I want to let you guys know what I personally think is still usable, because I think there's a difference between being top tier meta and being usable. There are still so many guns that if you learn to use correctly, that if you really like them, you can still use them. You can still enjoy your time on Warzone using non-meta guns. And I want to help people find those guns, because I think there's even some guns like the AS Val, which I'm going to make another video on here shortly, that can be used to counter some of the meta guns. This video, guys, is going to wrap up. It's just got a little bit more to it. I want to thank everyone for the support recently. I've, in a couple months, went from about 6 subscribers to 74, and those subscribers were all my friends and family, blah, blah, blah. So to actually get the support that I've had, to have the people commenting that have been there, the people stopping by the streams, for all of it, it is amazing, and I thank you guys so much. I hope we can keep continuing this. I can keep making good content, and I can keep the streams up. I just want to say thank you guys. You don't have to like, you don't have to subscribe, but if you do, thank you. Peace.